Bethel Kids Online.
Hey guys, I'm so excited to be doing the Bible verse with you guys again this week. Last week we said the Bible verse, and this week we're going to learn some motions. So this is how it's going to work. The first time, I'm going to do the motions and show them to you. The second time, I want you guys to learn it with me. The third time, let's do it all together. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to start first with the references. Exodus 14:14, and it goes like this. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Awesome. So, not too bad. You guys can do this. Okay, so this next time, I want you guys to learn the motions with me. So it goes like this. The Lord, so you're going to use your pointer fingers and you're going to point up. The Lord, then you're going to get your boxing gloves out and you're going to say, will fight. So let's just try that. The Lord will fight. Then you're going to do the number 4 and point you. So let's do all that together. The Lord will fight for you. You're going to keep that arm out and you're going to point again, you. And then you're going to put your arms out and need, like you really need something. So you need, then you're going to put your arms up in an O, only, the number 2, 2, and then you're going to say be still, and then you're going to freeze. Okay, so let's try that all together, practice, and then we'll do the last time really. Ready? Goes, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Awesome. Okay, let's really do this. Let's start with the reference. Exodus 14:14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Awesome. You guys did it. See you later.
If you were going into battle, would you feel confident with your only weapons being this kazoo, a jar, and your own voice? Most of us would want something a little more intimidating than a kazoo. In today's Bible story, we're going to see how God helped a judge named Gideon fight a battle with just trumpets, jars, and their own voices. God's people, the Israelites, had gotten themselves in some trouble. They did evil in God's eyes, and for 7 years, the Midianites ruled them. And these Midianites were not nice people. These Midianites were so cruel that the people of Israel would hide out in caves and mountains out of fear. These Midianites would destroy their crops and take their animals. Because of this, the Israelites were starving and in desperate need of help. What do you do when you're in trouble? You're right, we should pray and we should ask God for help. And that is exactly what the Israelites did. The Israelites cried out to God for help and He answered them. The angel of the Lord came to a man named Gideon and told him that the Lord was with him. Gideon responded, Sir, if God is with us, why has all this happened to us? And where are all the miracles that our ancestors told us about? Then Gideon said, The Lord has abandoned us and turned us over to the Midianites. The angel then told Gideon that God was sending him to rescue the Israelites from the Midianites. Then the angel said, Go with all the strength you have. The angel's words confused Gideon. How was he going to rescue Israel? He wasn't well known or powerful. He wasn't even that strong. But God told Gideon that he would be with him, and he would not only be able to defeat the Midianite people, but it would feel as though he was only fighting one person. But Gideon wanted to know for sure that God was going to be with him and help him. He asked for a sign, and God gave it to him. He asked for another sign, and again, God gave it to him. He actually asked for 3 signs, and each time, God gave him a sign that yes, he would be with him, and God would help him fight this battle. So Gideon headed off to battle, and as he went off to battle, he took with him 32,000 soldiers. But God told Gideon that was too many soldiers. See, God knew that if Gideon went with 32,000 soldiers, that when they won, they would claim that they had delivered themselves from the Midianites. And God wanted to make it clear that He was delivering them from the Midianites. So God told Gideon to tell the Israelites that whoever was timid or afraid could go ahead and go home. And do you know how many were afraid? 22,000 men went home because they were afraid to fight. Not only lived Gideon with 10,000 soldiers, and the Midianites had a huge army. But God wasn't done. He told Gideon that 10,000 was still too many soldiers. Remember, God was trying to make it clear that God was the one fighting their battles. not Gideon and not the Israelite people. To figure out who was going to fight and who was going to go home, God gave Gideon a test for the men. God told Gideon to take the men down to a spring of water. So Gideon obeyed and he took the men down to the spring of water. God told Gideon to tell the soldiers to drink water. And then he told Gideon to watch how the men drank the water. Some of the men were going to scoop the water up in their hands and drink the water that way. Other men were going to just put their heads down into the water and start drinking it right from the spring. God told Gideon to separate the soldiers into two groups. One group was for those that drank water out of their hands. The other was for the men that had drunk the water straight from the spring, no hands. Only 300 of the men had drunk water out of their hands. Only 300. And that's who God picked to fight the battle. Gideon and the men are probably wondering, why did we just go from 32,000 men only to 300? The Midianite army is huge. There is surely no way we are going to defeat the Midianites with only 300 men. But 300 men was all God needed, because remember, God's going to fight this battle. So God told Gideon, with 300 men, I am going to rescue you and give you victory over the Midianites. Send all the others home. Gideon obeyed God and he sent the other men home. But Gideon knew that God was on his side and God was going to fight this battle. The Midianite camp was in a valley just below where Gideon and his men were. That night, God told Gideon to get his men ready because they were going to attack. Gideon divided his soldiers into 3 groups, and then he gave each soldier a ram's horn and a jar with a torch inside. Gideon told his men to keep their eyes on him and to follow him exactly. Gideon told his men, as soon as I blow my ram's horn, you blow your horns as well, all around the entire camp, and then shout for the Lord and for Gideon. It was just after midnight when Gideon and his soldiers reached the edge of the Midianites' camp. Loudly, they all blew their trumpets together, then they broke their jars, lit their torches, and shouted, a sword for the Lord and for Gideon. The Midianites had no idea what was going on, and the Israelites stood in position and watched as the Midianites ran around in a panic. The Midianites had been caught completely off guard, and they were running around in a panic, shouting as they were trying to escape. But not only that, after the Israelites blew their horns, the Midianites began to fight one another. The Israelites chased the Midianites out of their land and defeated them in a great victory. The Midianite army never recovered from losing so badly. And for the rest of Gideon's life, about 40 years, there was peace in the land of Israel. It was because of Gideon's courage that God used Gideon to lead the Israelites to victory. It was a great battle, and Gideon and the Israelites gave God all the credit for the win. Everyone faces trials and troubles at some point in their life. But if we put our faith in Jesus, he has promised to always be with us and always help us during those trials and troubles. How does Jesus help us? By giving us the Holy Spirit. So let's see this candle as our trials. And this balloon is us. See, sometimes we say, I don't need God. I don't need his help. I can do this on my own. But what happens when we face our trial alone? Oh, that hit the wall! What happens when we face our trial alone? We explode! We don't really explode, but our problems definitely aren't solved well, and we end up feeling hurt and destroyed in the end. So let's see what happens. I have another balloon. This balloon has asked God to take care of him and to help him during trials. Again, the candle is still lit. Our trials are still there. But what happens? Nothing. Nothing happens. See, God protected this balloon from trials, just like he wants to protect you. Though the balloons faced the same trial, only one of them was able to withstand the trials and the troubles. Why do you think that is? Well, see, the first balloon was just full of hot air. The second balloon has a little bit of water in the bottom, and that water acts as a conduit for the heat, causing the balloon to not explode. God can do the same for us. When we go through trials, we can be like the balloon with water inside. We can get our courage from the Holy Spirit so that no matter what trial or trouble comes, we can stand unharmed.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Join in next week as we continue our series, God Wars. Bye!